No, we just
That one guy said that one time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
Lord.
one the entire time?
I can't believe I missed the Nobles one. That really, I can't believe I
You
missed
can watch
it.
it today.
I will. I
nice.
scrolled through.
Keep it down in there, Connor.
I got to
That's all right.
rim to rim first. I must have.
You'll find it.
Might have been
scrolled
right
past it.
before
What
or
did they do
after
there, son?
that. So
The
Guatemala trip.
mission.
Oh, yes, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Ready?
I'm
Set,
going to do it.
action.
Okay.
So Krista, what would be the one thing you wouldn't want to say on camera?
This is not right, Dan. Please don't do this.
Okay, let's start. Just tell us about the kids.
Tell us about the kids. So we
have a
three
12-year-old?
3 kids. Grace is 12. She'll be 13 in February. Connor's 11. He'll be 12 in February. And Jalen is 4. She'll be 5 at the end of this month.
Yes.
Okay. And this is November's National Adoption Month.
Yep.
And so, take us back to where it all started. At what point did you guys realize or think adoption was an option for your family?
Well, it was not the first option, and at the beginning it was not an option
We went
that
down the
we even
fertility
thought
road.
that we even thought was going to be an option at the very beginning. So many years, like 14 years ago or something like that. So
We've been married 19 years, so
5 years in or so.
realized things weren't going the way they needed to be going. And we sat in the Ukraine for 18 months.
Yeah. So once we realized that things weren't working, medically wasn't working, we talked a lot about it, reached out to a fraternity brother of mine that had adopted from the Ukraine, and went up to Louisville to some meetings and said, you know what, we're in. Mm-hmm.
What was that like? What was that process like?
Long.
It was. I mean, making the decision to change, I thought was kind of difficult, but it was easy because we knew that it was going to happen some way or another.
There was going to be an outcome at the end.
Because infertility treatments, as a lot of people know, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. You just wait, you do it, and you just wait and wait and wait and wait, and you think it's right,
and then that's it.
So, but when we finally decided to make the change, there was a prize at the end of whatever we were getting ready to do.
We sat there for 18 months.
So we filled out
all
reams
the
of paperwork.
Sat there for 18 months, and
then
the country closed on us.
Yeah, one day on the way to work, we hadn't heard anything, and they have a meeting on Thursdays, and it had to be Thursday morning. So we decided to drive to Louisville that day on that Thursday. First time we'd ever been to a meeting, and we get there, and they're like, "Yeah, the country closed."
Yeah.
The country closed
for international adoptions.
For international adoptions.
So we had no idea. We were just waiting. So then it kind of all changed again. We didn't know what to do, and
You had to start all over again.
A lot of our paperwork was so old that you had to start completely all over again.
So then was
get re-fingerprinted.
Korea your next choice?
Had a good family friend that had just gone through the process and said, "You're going to make the switch, and we're going to help you."
And we just let them guide us.
They guided us, and in 5 months, we got the call to go and get Grace.
5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it took only 5 months where we waited in the Ukraine for 18 months with nothing.
What's that like emotionally? That's got to be tough.
I think, it was very emotional the whole time. Like, it was, like, good. And, I mean, it was just emotional
And you
the
would
whole
get
time.
little information, and then you would, be happy, and then it would be,
There was a lot of hurry up and
wait.
wait.
Yeah,
there was a lot of hurry up
wait.
because we looked at it like a job. When the paperwork both times, all 4 sets of paperwork. The Ukraine paperwork, and then 2 sets of Korean paperwork, and then with fostering, all 4 times we did paperwork, it was like a job. We just put it all together, and we just knocked it out. And so it was a lot of knock it out, hurry up, get it done, because we didn't want to lose any time because anything that we did. If we slow played something or didn't take care of what needed to be taken care of, we did not want any of the issues to be based on what we did not take care of.
That was the part you could control.
Correct. And that was really the whole thing. It was all about us knocking it out.
And you were so anxious to just start your family.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we went, and she was She turned 5 months while we were there, so we got to see her one day when she was 4 months, and then. Yeah.
So take us back to that first moment. You fly to South Korea. You're in a room. You're in a waiting room. You're waiting for her to come in. You're going in.
So yeah.
And the picture doesn't match the 5-month-old that you see.
So all we got. So
all we had were two newborn pictures. 2
newborn pictures that she was in like hospital type swaddling.
This is in an orphanage or a foster home, or what's this?
So it's at an it's like a office. It's like a medical office.
Oh, when we went there, yeah, it was.
So we go there, nervous, a huge long flight. We're staying in what they call a guest house, which is kind of like a hotel, kind of like a dorm room, more like a dorm room. For the foster parents who are coming, or the adoptive parents. We go to this basically doctor's office, and we're sitting in the lobby, and we're watching all these foster moms, Korean foster moms and families with little babies on their back in their carry
wraps.
Their wraps, and we're watching which one is it? Which one is that? Her? Is that her? Is that her? Is that her? And I don't remember if we realized it was her when we finally saw her.
Yeah.
But it's just like everything is worth it at that point. So we saw they took her and her foster mom back, and then they called us back, and it was just, I mean, it's like instant. It is instant. When you know it's going to happen, it is instant. And it's got to be similar to having your own baby. I mean, because it is like instant love.
That's right.
It's like instant. So,
do you guys even think of yourself as far as parents? Do you even think of yourselves as adoptive parents, or are you just parents?
Just parents.
Just parents. At the very beginning, I think it was different, but just parents.
We're just parents.
And what's the best part of being a parent for you?
As much as I complain about having to shuffle kids all day long and being a taxi mom, I think that is like the most rewarding thing to be able to do as a mom, is to be able to, have that opportunity to take them myself to ball games, to their choir practice, to all the different sports that they have to do. And
the best part for me, for being a parent, I love seeing the pieces of me and Krista in all 3 of them in different ways.
They may not look like us.
I mean, they the big kids don't look like us. It's obvious. But I really love seeing, especially now that Connor and Grace are getting a little bit older and their personalities are really starting to develop and are developing. I love seeing pieces of us, knowing that they're not blood, but pieces of us in them. I mean, that is the highlight of my day. I mean, highlight of mine.
And what's the best part of the adoption process?
I guess going to court. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, really, the ending. The best part is
knowing that they will never be taken away from you. I mean,
the best part, without a doubt, is knowing that at some point it will be done and final, and you'll get birth certificates, and you get all these official papers that traditional families get, birth certificates and names on everything, and
with your last name, with our last name. That's just...
It's like kind of the final stamp.
Yeah.
Because then after that, it's just being parents like
Yeah.
everybody else. I mean, we went about it different ways, but I mean, the rest is just, you know, doing what you do as parents.
And what's the difference between adoption and fostering for you?
So between foster and adopting,
is there a difference for you? And the difference between getting a call on a Friday night and getting kids placed in your home versus a long process of waiting for that moment?
So, I mean, if you think about it, logistically, it's completely different. I mean, between fostering and adopting or adoption,
it could be a short period. It could be, we've done respite, which is just a short time for maybe another foster family, to Jalen, who we had 3 years before we were able to adopt her. So you can go as short as a weekend to 3 years, or more.
But I think we looked at it the same. So when we decided to start fostering, we thought that the big kids were old enough to kind of understand. We wanted them to understand how they came to us, and there were people that loved them before us, even if it wasn't their birth parents, or if it was, we wanted them to realize that there were people that loved them even before we even got in the picture. So once we got to that point, and we believed that the kids were old enough to understand it, we went at it just the same way as we did before. We knocked out the paperwork just like we did like a job. And we knew, and we talked about it openly with us and the kids. When whoever comes in, however long it's going to be, like, we will love them like our own, even if it's for the weekend. So,
and a lot of people say I don't know how you guys can do it, because don't you get so attached? Well, I mean, that's you got to think, if that is only the weekend of the most love that they get, that could be the most love they've gotten in the next 18 years. If we can give them a loving home and know that there's, support, that they sometimes don't get that.
And that's exactly what we did. I don't think at least I didn't think about it as I'm making some impact on this child that they will never forget. I just knew that all four of us would love them just like we would love our own right there the second we get them. I don't think I looked at it, well, we're making a difference in their life for this weekend, but we all have our own way to think about it, depending on how you're looking at it or where you're at that point.
And when you had Jalen for the first time, did you anticipate the road ahead, or did that just kind of evolve?
I think it evolved.
I think so too. Like when we first got her, I think so too. So
we didn't really know that we would have her, and so.
But I don't know when. I don't know if I really remember. Not that I don't remember, but it was in the summer. So the kids were off. Chris and the kids were off. There was no school. I was still going to work every day, just like normal. And I get a call that Chris is downtown and she's picking up a baby, and I come home from work and there's a 8-month-old, and it's just okay.
So you go to work that morning, like normal. You come home.
You have an
8-month-old.
Right. And I come home from work and there's
that's life as a foster parent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and
you will get a call at any hour of the day. You may go down to the state office,
or the hospital,
you may go to the hospital,
or a parking lot, wherever the handoff can happen.
The social worker is. Yeah, and then you just take the baby home, and then you have the stuff, and
you just
away you go. Yeah,
and it just starts.
And there's such a need for people like you. And I see signs. We see signs around town for get involved with fostering, and that's.
It is really a good way. I mean, there is obviously need. I don't know the statistics at all, but when you think about it, literally people are getting called every day.
I think there was a statistic. What was it? 10,000 children in the state of Kentucky
are in foster care right now.
Foster care right now.
And of course, Grace just tried to do something about that.
Right. She wrote a bill to try to reduce the number of days a child is in foster care. So Jalen was in foster care 1,124 days.
Wow.
That's over 3 years.
Is there a cap?
And by law, there's no cap that says in 2 years.
Yeah,
so she tried to put that.
We learned there's rules of thumb, or there's general framework, but there is no limit to how long a child could be in foster care, depending on what the birth parents are or are not doing. So there is no. It could be, we knew people that 2001 was 2,024 days or something like that.
Wow.
So.
And so Grace, as a 13-year-old,
she
recognizes there's an issue.
She lived it. She lived the struggle that we went through with Jalen, and thought, I'm going to try to do something about it. And so with the Kentucky Youth Assembly, decided that's what the bill she wanted to write. And so we went to Louisville, and she got in front of her student peers and presented her bill, and she was questioned about it, and she did great. She did great.
She believes in it.
She believes and understands and doesn't want a child to have to go through what Jalen did, or siblings to have a child or a sibling torn out of their house.
She really did well, and the group of friends that she did this bill with, it really touched their lives too. They lived it with us through Grace, and then really helped support her in this activity, and it was really amazing. When the first time they came over and was working on it, it was they were working on the table and just sitting back thinking, these are 4 12-year-old girls in middle school that play sports and do things and go to church, but the impact that fostering and adoption on these 4 girls and hopefully a lot of other kids in their school really, really, that Sunday, that really meant a lot to me to see that with the girls.
And one day JJ will have a better appreciation of what they actually did for her,
right.
which is really neat.
So it was really exciting, and she came up with it on her own. She no pushing from us. She came home from school and said, "I know what my bill's going to be, and this is what we're going to do." And here we go.
Great.
So,
what's the hardest part of the process for you as mom and dad, as husband and wife, as partners? What's the hardest part of this journey?
I think now it's just keeping up with their schedule. Because I don't live the life as I'm a foster mom or an adoptive mom. But, I would love to get another call for another baby just to add to the mix.
You're crazy.
I just want one more.
I think, it was at the beginning, the hardest part at the beginning was, for me, it was mentally knowing that they're not mine. At the very, 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 very beginning. Very early on.
Well, from the outside looking in, that's a natural, unspoken thought.
Yeah. And in reality, we're being completely honest, at the very beginning, we wanted to go to Ukraine because they were going to look more like us than any other place. And that's the choice we made at the very beginning. There was obviously a bigger plan, and, there's signs... right at the beginning, there were signs saying this isn't right, and when you're in it, you don't always look at whatever signs they are. But at the very beginning, for me personally, just the fact that it was not working and we were going to have to do something different, it was just very hard. I mean, I wanted to be a dad forever and ever and ever, my whole life. I took care of my little brother. I mean, it was just. I do it with my friends' kids. I love them like my own, and it was very mentally difficult for me, which means I depended on Krista a lot more than probably I needed to or should have. But she was there, and that's one reason why we kind of just knocked it out. It was a job. At the very beginning, it was like a job.
You were on a mission.
Right.
You were going to have a baby.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest. The mental part at the very early on was the hardest. But once we got Grace and we got the prize, the rest of it is just I don't think of anything as a struggle at all from the time we came home with Grace until last December when we adopted Jalen. There was emotions and difficulties, which is what all families go through. We all have our own things, but there's been no struggle at all. I mean, I would take another one tomorrow too. I mean,
are you crazy?
Yeah, am I crazy? Yeah.
It's on video.
Right, it's on video. I'm ready. Let's
Well, I would think that your kids probably. I mean, I know they appreciate you all, and they appreciate being a part of your family, but they probably, because they were adopted at such a young age, they don't have to think of the appreciation they should have because they don't really know it any other way.
Right.
Whereas if they were adopted older or had been in conditions that were different, then they would think, oh, you took me out of that situation and changed my life. And
And they were in foster care, which was great, which was just like an environment like ours. They had
in
Connor's
South Korea,
foster
right, yeah.
mom and dad loved him so much. Connor's foster dad loved him so much that he couldn't even come and drop him off because he had such an attachment with Connor. So,
which is part of the reason why we wanted to foster. So,
To
like
show
you were
that-
saying, to
that-
show the big kids that
fostering is great.
It-
You
the-
came from loving foster parents, and that's what we need to do too.
Can you imagine your life without Grace and Connor?
oh
Yeah.
gosh,
No.
no way, I could not imagine not having 3 of them at this point. I mean, I can't imagine it being any different than it is. I mean, it was everything. Like I said, as soon as we came home with Grace from 2010 or whatever year that was, or 2008, 7.
They start running together after a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
From that time, from the time we came home with Grace, like I would not change anything that we've done, because the timing of it all was there for a reason. If we would have fostered earlier, Jalen, we may have already had another baby and then Jalen wouldn't be here, and it just there was really signs that things just kind of fell into place exactly how they were supposed to be, and maybe we're not done. We'll see. I mean. We got the newborn done. We did that for a little while. So
oh gosh,
yeah.
I want another newborn.
So if you could go back, if you could go back to the first time you guys decided, yes, we want to go down this road. If you could go back with what you know now and tell yourselves one thing, what advice would you give to yourself?
We have time to think, right? I just broke that one. That is what advice? So we were.
What's the one piece of critical advice you would tell yourselves if you could go back and talk to yourself? If you could tell a prospective parent who's thinking about adopting or fostering, what's the one critical piece they need to know?
The most critical piece for me would be, do not hesitate. If you feel there is if you feel like this is the way it should go, if you feel like there should be, that's not.
I don't know. That's a tough question.
Or is it better to go in blind?
I like that. Don't hesitate.
I know.
Just go for it.
You can't hesitate. You can't second guess it. It's a huge, huge decision. But so is okay. I would tell myself or prospective foster or adoptive parents that other than giving birth and them being your blood, that is the only difference. That is the only difference.
And does that matter?
And it will not matter. It does not matter, and it will not matter. It hasn't mattered. I could not imagine it any other way. It is all because, for whatever reason, wasn't our path to being parents and having a family was this. And I could not imagine it any other way. I can't imagine being in a hospital room and birthing and all these things that we have never had to do.
Yeah.
I can't imagine ever needing it, wanting it, needing to be around
we
it.
can take another little baby out of the hospital
But-
if they need us to,
Yes.
right?
I'm picking up a finger here. You picking up a finger?
I got it. But had your fertility treatments worked, your life would be different.
Sure.
And everything just
100%.
worked
We
out.
probably would have never thought about adopting.
Right.
We would have never
And-
thought about fostering. We would have. There's a lot of things that potentially could be
just
different.
all fell into place the way it was supposed
It
to.
really did, and it was when we came home with Grace. It just the struggle getting to that point.
We knew we could do it again, and we did it
Oh.
again in a year.
Mm-hmm.
We put our
Yeah,
paperwork
that's right.
in, and in a year we had Connor.
You were
right.
flying back to
So
South
we were
Korea.
flying back within the year, and then they're only 12 months apart. So,
Speaking
And
of
there
Connor,
he is.
perfect entry point. What's up, man?
Nothing.
How are you?
Good.
What are you doing?
What,
What are you doing?
Connor?
okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about your mom and dad?
They're nice.
They are.
So we were talking earlier how the best parts of ourselves. That's my best
That's it.
part. That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Like in out. See, dude.
Good talk.
Man, a few words right there.
Anything we haven't touched on, or any questions or thoughts or comments you have?
Maybe you could just say something like, if there's anyone out there who's interested in the fostering process, or
Okay.
you know,
What?
is there an organization to contact, or you know,
Like started from scratch. Like I'm just going to come out and
Yeah,
be like
yeah,
a PSA.
yeah,
Like a PSA.
yes, yes.
Would you like to ask me like the real question? Hey, is there anything that anybody can
You
do?
guys are really
Sure,
easy to
would you like me to do
interview
that?
here.
I don't know. We're going to edit
Sure.
all this out.
Okay.
We were trying to not
Can
make
you-
Hey,
this
can you
can
difficult.
you
this to
tell
Kristen?
me? Can you tell me if there's anyone out there who's interested in the fostering process? What they would do?
What
guess
would they
they
do
would-
first?
I don't know. Like, call us. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we evolve for a lot of. So if there are if there are people that have
An interest.
an
to
interest or
foster.
something, thinking about it or interested in it, we always say you can call us. I mean, we've told many people.
And we've talked to many people.
We have talked to a lot of different people. But if they wanted to get the details and what really has to happen, they just need to contact the DCBS, the department,
cabinet.
the cabinet,
So
Department
just
of
go
Children's.
online,
That-
and
yeah,
Google
research. Probably anything is available online. So to really understand what it is, it's to talk to somebody who's done it. Is the best
And then
way.
going through classes.
And-
They would go through classes before and then get fingerprinted. There's a
whole process.
There's a process.
But don't hesitate. If you have it on your heart to foster, whether it's to build your family or if it's to just help kids in need, they can call us and we can steer them right. They can contact the Department of Child Services. They can look online. A lot of different ways to do it.
Well, we're awfully proud of you guys. We're proud to call you friends.
Thanks.
We think a lot of you.
I appreciate it. We appreciate it. We love you guys too a lot.
Love the Yerics. GYK is partially ours.
She is.
So where will